Hello, and welcome back to Star Wars Minute. It's the daily podcast where we analyze, scrutinize, and celebrate Star Wars movies 1 minute at a time. I'm Pete the Retailer from PeteTheRetailer.com.
I'm Alex Robinson from AlexRobinson.fun.
And I'm Asterios Kokkinos from the loudest podcast, as you can tell.
Welcome back, Asterios. Thanks for, I'm afraid to tell you that there are no more porgs in this movie after this. I know we talked about it a little bit yesterday, but I'm happy that you came back anyway. So, I mean, we'll see, I'm sure we can figure out something to talk about from here on in, but...
You can't just have them running around on the Millennium Falcon. We know they live there now. Like, you can't have one shot. Remember, they built a nest out of the very important Millennium Falcon wires. Like, what the... don't you want to sell more toys? It's like, from a crass commercial perspective, don't you want to sell more stuff, Disney Corporation? It's the most boggling decision. It makes no sense to me that there's not more porgs in this movie.
I guess they had to focusing on Dio and Babu Frick.
Mm-hmm.
They had two new cute characters.
Two new cuties.
Two new cutie pies they had to market.
Would I, and let's open this up, would any of us have liked it more or less if during the final battle, Rey is like, I'm all the Jedi with Palpatine and they're fighting, and then a porg kind of flapped over Palpatine's head and pooped on him, and he's like, what the? And he got distracted enough that then Rey was able to destroy him because of that.
I mean, I think that if all of a sudden, so porg shits on Palpatine, and he's like, oh, good luck. I love this. And he looks up and he's like, what? Dude, adorable little bird. Half pug, half puffin. What a little cutie you are. That's it. No more being bad. I'm good now. I want to cuddle you baby bugs forever. You little snuggle bug, a cutie warty warty. That would actually make more sense than what happens in the actual end of this movie. And then
he comes in,
that would be unexpected because Palpatine. I remember I said this one time. I remember I said this in the Star Wars Minute Facebook group. It's like, this is the first time that the use of Palpatine has made something just a little bit worse. Because usually it's the best day ever when Palpatine shows up. It's like, it's about to get real. There's a very charismatic villain on the scene.
I love the idea of him like having a change of heart and then be like, the final order is finished. We are now the Porg Order. And everybody's like, yay. And like, we bring back the Augie's Great Municipal Band. You get Boss Nass being like, Porgs, and holding one above his head. Just play the whole thing, just like totally.
They'll pull up their uniforms and they have pug uniforms on underneath it. Too far.
Imagine a little Porg running around in one of those orbs that the Gungans have. He don't know how he got in there. He don't know if it's bad or good. He's confused. He's still figuring it out. Man.
It's like one of those hamster balls.
And that,
yes!
Yeah, it's like and that's how it ends. It falls out of his hands, then it rolls towards the camera, and the credits. Once the ball rolls into the camera, basically goes to black. Credits roll. That's how we should have ended it. Anyway,
did you say where this minute started and ended yet?
No, okay. I was going to say that's where the movie should have ended. Let's talk about where this minute begins and ends. Minute 92 of Star Wars Episode 9: The Rise of Skywalker starts with the ghost hand, Luke making his way out of the flames, and it ends with Rey saying, "She didn't tell me."
Ghost hand.
She didn't tell me. Ghost hand.
I was very interested when this, obviously it's a Force ghost of Luke. That's a whole nother thing. This is the first time we really see him as a Force ghost. I don't know if you count. I don't know if you count what was on that salt planet.
Right.
If that counts as a Force ghost, or I don't think it does because it looked like a regular person, not a ghost. Anyway, Luke's hand shoots out of the flames to catch the lightsaber, and as I was taking my notes, I was like, oh, does he catch it with his left hand or because his right hand? Because if he catches it with his right hand, that would answer the long-standing question of what happens to limbs when you go become a Force ghost. You know,
Right.
Anakin, it's hard to Anakin, his robes are all on. You can't see what's going on under those. And he also seems to have gone back to his pre-amputation self. So,
well, he went back to when Anakin Skywalker was killed, not Darth Vader.
So he was missing his arm, at least his right arm, because that he lost back in Attack of the Clones. Anyway, they possibly avoid the issue by having Luke catch it with his left hand. His right hand remains hidden underneath his cape. Does that mean he didn't catch it with his right hand because it's just a stump? We don't know.
Right, because robot hand don't go to heaven.
Right. And I forget, could we see his robot hand when they showed his body disappear? Did his robot hand clunk to the ground?
That was in a version of the script at some point.
Okay, but we didn't actually...
but it did not make it to air.
It did not. It wasn't actually in the... Okay, so we don't know still.
Right.
Anyway, you guys have anything else to say about Ghost Hand?
Not the hand itself, but Luke as he's walking out.
Oh, of course, yeah.
We get a really weird shot through the TIE fighter wing.
Yeah.
Of Luke, and it seems like an odd. Like, if all this was real, it would seem like an odd choice of somebody trying to be kind of artistic with it, and maybe it still is, but I don't think it's real. I think that's all, like, I don't know. How much did they build a TIE fighter for them to walk around? I don't think so.
It looks weird to me. Like, the scale looks strange to me because, you can't just film a little fire and then blow it up to make it look like a big fire. It's still, they don't look... a match head on fire doesn't look the same as a building on fire in terms of the size of the flames and everything. And I feel like they had a small miniature that they lit on fire and then they put Ghost Mark Hamill in there, but the flames, because they're smaller, look small. If this first opening shot, Luke looks like he's like a tiny little, like a small man a small ghost coming out of the flames. So it looks weird to me.
I don't know enough about behind the scenes, but do you think they actually built a miniature even, or was this all computer generated?
Well, if it was computer generated, I feel like the fire would look more and at a certain point it probably becomes computer generated, but the first opening shot when Luke as he's going from left to right on the screen, the flames look too big to me. So anyway, but I don't know. I could see either way.
I also don't know.
They do crazy things, like they built that whole sea siren for a 3-second shot that cost like $2 million or something. So they very well could have lit this thing on fire. And a question about, speaking of the sea siren, Luke catches the lightsaber. Further evidence that now Force ghosts can hold physical objects. Force ghosts can interact with the physical world, I guess, is... Right. Could Luke still drink the sea siren milk? At one point, is he like, hold on a second, Rey? And he runs down there and I haven't had that for a year now.
He just pours it, but it just goes right through.
Oh, okay. So he can still milk it,
like,
but he can't drink the milk. That's the problem.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, Force Ghost Luke, what do you guys think?
I think it's strange because, again, I'm watching the movie. I'm like, oh, good, Luke's here. I do like this. And I look, obviously we'll talk about later the whole director versus director, the drama about that, or the perhaps perceived drama. But it's like, but then, now I think about it, now that I'm like pondering a little bit, it's like, these Force Ghosts should probably show up when characters aren't in crisis. Because it's like, they always show up at during these dark moments, and it's like, if you just hung out more when things were cool, and we wouldn't need to get to this point where you're showing up during an emotional dark moment. If you just said hi every once in a while.
Can they only show up? Maybe that's part of the thing. Maybe your adrenaline has to be pumping in order to get the midichlorians acting up enough for where you can perceive Force ghosts.
I mean, I had that same thought where I was like, all right, maybe maybe the Force Ghost can only show up when you're super bummed out. It's like maybe like that's what opens the portal between like Jedi heaven and like the real world. Because it's like, all right, well, let's count them. It's, fourth Ben Kenobi's like, you got to go to Dagobah.
Right.
Luke's all beat up.
Then on Dagobah, he was just like, hey.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that was a time where he wasn't really too. When Luke was first interacting with Yoda, and Ben's like, "So was I," if you remember. Like no one's really stressed out at that time. So
I mean, he is a little bit because he's about to be like, "This sucks, I'm leaving."
Yeah.
Like instead of training with Yoda's like, "I'm not going to train him," and that's when Ben is like, So maybe that's Yoda's stressed out point. He's appearing for Yoda's benefit.
Oh.
That's why
you couldn't see him.
Luke can hear him but not see him. And he's appearing for. Maybe we can get like a 3-foot high Obi-Wan Force Ghost that's talking to Yoda like at his level. If we saw it from Yoda's point of view.
And then there's
Yoda's point of view.
But wait a minute.
What?
But all the Force Ghosts also show up to party in the end of the third movie. And
well, they know Luke is very awkward at parties. He's kind of not a social guy, so they know that he's all like worked up because he's like, what am I going to talk to Wedge about? And so they're like, just go in there and be yourself, Luke. Tell them the
also
joke
maybe they're
about
showing
the
up for.
rat. Sorry,
they're showing up for Anakin because Anakin's like maybe he's like his suit is doing a little bit of like overtime work, and he's like they think he's dead, but he's not quite dead yet. And then he's like on fire. Like, oh my god, I'm on fire, and like that's why Obi-Wan and Yoda show up. They're like, dude, it's okay, you're gonna be a Force Ghost.
They love seeing him burn. Like,
yeah.
See familiar?
Okay, now tell me you hate me. Remember that? Oh, okay, yes.
Higher ground indeed.
I forgot that like the ghost of Anakin shows up to like his own barbecue. I forgot about that. Look.
Yeah. And I think that's why Yoda and Obi-Wan are just there to pick him up. They're like, we're going to Force Heaven. We just stopped by to get our boy here.
Oh, okay. That actually does make sense. Because then, like, the moment of incredible tension is my body is being burned alive in front of a bunch of teddy bears.
Exactly.
You'd think the last thing
Anakin
Anakin
playing drums on skulls. Were there heads in those things? Alex,
not anymore.
Do you think there were like actual stormtrooper heads in those helmets they were playing? No.
The brains are way too tasty for them to just leave inside of a helmet.
Very good.
Or they used them to tan leather, I'm sure, right? Because they're maybe it's stormtrooper leather. Maybe they made out of stormtrooper skins. Maybe they made.
Wow, this is really getting dark. This is suddenly like
Ed
Gein.
How did we get here? We were talking about.
Maybe that's what the wings are made out of in those Ewok flying things. It's like
there you go.
Stormtrooper.
There should have been like a
hides.
human face on the one of the stretched.
Well, if you'd seen it from the other side. We only saw the underside of the wing, obviously, if you've seen it from the sky. But I just like the idea that these Ewoks are eating the brains like I eat ice cream out of a little miniature Cubs helmet at a Cubs game.
Yeah. Shield monkey brains, that kind of idea, but it's Stormtrooper. Also, we can't let it go. It's a Star Wars minute thing that, of course, if it is Stormtrooper leather that the wings are made out of on the thing, there is a face on it, and of course, like it flies by, they drop the rocks, then you zoom in on the face in the glider, and he's like, it's a living.
Yeah!
It's the only way to fly.
Yeah, there you go. Here, let me follow that up with another dumb, maybe not a joke, maybe something to think about.
It is dumb, though.
Yeah, it is dumb. Luke Skywalker, here he's Luke Firewalker. Is there also Luke Waterwalker and Luke Earthwalker?
I prefer the term Luke Water AT-AT, but sure.
Okay. Luke Sky-AT-AT. Wow. But yes, where the origins of his name came to the forefront, looking at this, I'm like, he's more like Luke Firewalker. I was like, wait a minute, does that mean there are others?
That's what Rey should have said to him, totally. Or she should have had her name be Firewalker at the end, because Luke's the one who kind of cheered her up there. So,
right.
And then we can all go watch a great screening of Luke Firewalk with me.
There you go.
Fantastic.
Firewalk with Shmi.
Oh my God! Because he was supposed to direct the third one, Lynch. Yes.
Oh,
yeah,
there you go.
That's what it would have. There you go. It all comes around full circle.
All right, so Luke's like, hey, that's my sword. Don't throw it in the fire. And it's like, okay, it's like a gag because originally, like, they handed him his laser sword and he was like, f this, and he threw it away. And now he thinks it's you want to keep it. And I remember people being upset at the time. They were like, oh, this seems like it's J.J. Abrams, like, throwing shade at Rian Johnson. And it's like, I don't think so. I think this is a character arc. This is like a moment. And, like, Luke, in this minute, Luke literally says, I was wrong. So it's like, there's growth.
It is absolutely opposite of throwing shade at Rian Johnson. It is saying, like, look, this is where it's paying tribute to, it's including, making Luke's arc a part of Luke's story here, that Luke came to that conclusion. By the end of the movie, he realized he was wrong. He got back in touch with the Force. The Last Jedi informed this moment, and it's not a rebuke of that. It's absolutely a celebration of that. That Luke is here as the Luke from the end of The Last Jedi. Luke having kind of returned to oneness with the Force, or what have you.
I agree. It shows Luke's growth, but weirdly, it's a direction I don't particularly. Having Luke go from being a kind of cynic about the Jedi to totally drinking the Kool-Aid and now being like, the Jedi are the best thing, they must continue. I feel like it would be more, I don't know, interesting to have him be a little bit more like of a kind of critic of the Jedi, like admitting it's a good thing, but it's not necessarily like all the things he said are still true. That Palpatine arose because of the Jedi, like, I don't know. Mm-hmm. But he goes into a lot more detail about what I don't like in tomorrow's minute. Luke doesn't really do much proselytizing.
Well, he does, yeah. He does say, I like his tone where he's like, what are you doing? Yeah. So it brings me back to almost him being like, you're making a mess. Yeah. That's my dinner. Like that same thing.
Yeah.
Except it's now a little more old grizzled Luke being like, what are you doing?
I wish he was more like, oh, look what you're doing. You've lit the whole thing on fire. Yeah. Oh, he's all...
You made a mess. Come on. Oh, I was going to fly on that.
The other thing I will grumble about is, Rey finds that Luke confirms that Rey is a Palpatine and that Leia knew about it and didn't tell her. And I really don't like that because that's turning Leia into Obi-Wan now. Like Leia's just like, oh, it's not my problem. I'm not going to get, I mean, the only way I could wiggle room is that Leia of all people knows what it's like to discover that you're related to an awful, horrible person who, tried to kill you and so on. But I don't like Leia not telling Rey. Well, does it mean, because could it be evidence that Pete is right? The reason Leia didn't tell her, it's not true.
Right.
It is interesting because it's a move that doesn't bring us anywhere in a game of chess. It's kind of like a lateral thing where it's like, all right, Leia knew that you were a Palpatine. I know what they're going for. They're going for a thing where it's like, Leia knew that you had like Hitler blood, but thought like you were so cool that like she wanted to train you up to be like a cool Jedi. And like Leia, knew that there was goodness in you regardless of like the Hitler blood. But it's like, I don't know. It's like I already think Leia has a positive opinion of Rey. So it's like, okay, in a movie you can either think someone's either the best or the worst. And it's like it doesn't, I don't know what, like the math works of this move, but I don't feel it. Like it doesn't work it works on an intellectual but not emotional level. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree, especially because it's, it almost seems like a throw-in that it was like they switched, like Luke was, he says like, oh, because you're a Palpatine, and then it cuts to like his back and it's like, Leia also knew this. Like, and then it goes back to like the scene.
Could they have just not addressed whether Leia knew it or not? Or would fans would that be kind of, I guess they'll be debating about it, but.
I mean, by exactly what Asterios is just talking about, it's kind of powerful in kind of informing her change of opinion on this. If it's like, yes, Leia knew this, and also decided to train you because she knew that you could, overcome that. And I might have to flip to it. Let's see.
The book.
In the Rise of Skywalker expanded edition by Ray Carson. Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker.
Wait, you're talking about New York Times best-selling author?
That's the one.
Okay.
Let's see. They do go into a little bit of like Leia. It's like, because you're a Palpatine. She gasped. He'd said it so casually, as though not impressed in the least. Leia knew it too, he added. So they make a note of Luke's casual tone about this. Rey had guessed as much, but it was that's odd. Rey had guessed as much, but it was still startling to hear him say it. She never told me, she whispered, which is the end of this minute. But she does then go into. I guess this does go into tomorrow, that she still trained me because she saw your spirit. But this is all stuff from tomorrow's notes.
Yeah.
So she didn't tell me is where it ends. But before then, I guess I'll table it for tomorrow. But I do. So let me back up a second and talk about what she says before this that was interesting. Because this will bring up something that I keep trying to bring up, which never seems to kind of coalesce into a point. Every time I bring it up, it doesn't. I keep wanting to connect the dots, and they keep falling apart. When Luke's standing there with Rey, and Rey is disappointed, and she was like, "Look, I don't like." Luke stood over her. Let me back up one sentence and say, beside her, a ragged porg shook its feathers, cawing at her in irritation.
Ragged.
Ragged porg.
A ragged,
porg.
Look, I don't know if this is a curse word that you'll allow in the air, but I know that there's an insult in the hip hop community, raggedy.
I feel like you're worried about that now.
And it's like, how dare you? These are beautiful looking porgs. They're like, they have a nice sheen to their over feathers. They have cute little underfluffies. And like, look, and they're watching a ship burn, and they don't know what's happening. They're dumb
Some people just want to watch a ship burn.
Some porgs just want to watch the ship burn. Yes.
There you go.
They're like, what's going on? Hey, I remember that lady.
Is that our shirt for the week?
That lady used to live here. Now she's gone. Now she's Raggedy.
Ragged, not Raggedy. Raggedy's a...
Okay.
Ragged porg.
Granted, I understand she's not like Raggedy Ann and Landy, but it's like,
right.
okay, all right, author. I get that you're trying to do a thing where it's like, oh, the Rey's at her lowest moment, so even the porgs around her are raggedy. It's like everything's raggedy, but it's like they're not. They're not. They're beautiful.
Well, the ones that made it to camera are beautiful. It's like. Like on a nature documentary, they're probably not going to show you the kind of, mangy, molting
runs.
Yeah.
Hey, is this a merch idea? Raggedy Annie, but it's Annie, like Little Annie? Is that a thing? Is that an idea?
Brilliant, yes.
Could be, yeah. Is he going to be stuck in that molasses swamp or whatever?
I wish. Is Raggedy Annie still a thing?
No, but
Raggedy Ann?
Raggedy Ann.
It's Raggedy Ann and Little Andy.
No, it was Raggedy Andy was the boy's name.
Oh,
Raggedy Andy.
Yeah,
Raggedy Ann and Raggedy Andy. No, you're right. I'm wrong.
Do your kids know who Raggedy Ann is?
I don't. Well, maybe.
I don't know if that's like a staple. Like,
yeah,
has
it stood the test of time?
Probably not.
I don't know.
Kids don't like cloth toys,
especially raggedy ones. But what you guys are telling me is there's an unexploited intellectual property? This is
probably
how much
mired down in some kind of legal limbo. There's a bunch of things that are just like, hey, why hasn't anybody done this? Oh, it's because the holding company that had the rights in the late 90s somehow is still, they got bought by somebody else, and now there's some question as to who.
Now that Barbie's a hit, though, you can bet that Raggedy Ann, someone's gonna be diving down on that Raggedy Ann license.
Wait a minute. Raggedy Ann's first appearance was in 1918. Raggedy Ann might be public domain.
There you go.
Might be able to make a fun movie where Raggedy Ann's murdering you left and right like that Winnie the Pooh thing. A dark, twisted take on Raggedy Ann, huh?
Or I think we need to do like an indie kind of like road trip, kind of a self-discovery movie with
Not
Raggedy
another
Ann and
indie.
Andy.
I'm done with after
Oh,
Destiny.
Randy.
It's
Raggedy Ann and the Dial of Destiny.
Raggedy Indie.
There you go. Anyway,
I want to buy that too. Raggedy Annie, Raggedy Indy. I like them both.
Okay.
So she's talking about Kylo Ren. She's like disappointed. She's like, Luke stood over her, unbothered by the proximity of his robes to the flames. They keep like dropping hints that he's a ghost as if we don't know. I did everything I was trained to do. I did everything I was trained not to, rather, she told him. I drew my saber first. Now, this is something that I keep going back to, that like the Jedi usually draw their saber first. It's supposed to be like, hey, only in defense, knowledge and defense, right? But they're the ones who are drawing their saber. Yeah. So she drew her saber first, attacked Ren blind with anger. And Luke says, but then you healed him. One one attaboy erases a whole bunch of oopsies, right? Or whatever.
That's the Skywalker way.
Yeah.
Question.
And Rey says,
go ahead, finish.
Yeah. No, then she says, I gave him some of my life, and in that moment, I would have given him all of it. Died if I had to. So,
if you were a Force ghost, do you have perfect omniscience about what's going on in the world? Like, is Luke up in Force heaven and saying, "Oh, look, Rey is healing her"? How did he know that? Basically, did she tell him? Or probably, are all the Jedi kind of watching her because she's like the current star of the Jedi, world? We feel later that all the Jedi kind of start cheering her on later on, so it is possible that they're all kind of rooting for her. They're all in the chat room watching.
Yeah, I'm going to hypothesize that Luke was just like, oh, here comes Rey. What's she been up to? You cast a new. Can I get an update on Rey? And she just like quickly files a little like data report, like a little, kind of like for like a late night talk show host, like the updates. So I hear you healed Kylo Ren.
I want it to be like Gary and Veep, where someone's following Luke around. This is Rey. She just healed a snake, right. Telling you a little bit about them so she can make conversation with the.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
No,
I do want to talk about this for just one more second. Not Gary from Veep.
Please.
It's
sure.
like, okay, Luke. So you tried to kill Kylo Ren, and then you were like, oopsie, and then you stopped yourself. But then that created Kylo Ren. And then this lady tried to kill Kylo Ren. It's like, does Luke want her to have tried to kill Kylo Ren or not? Or is it really not about Kylo Ren dying at all, and it's more about the anger? Like, again, if Luke was like, look, I just have one note for you. Like, next time you try to kill Kylo Ren, like, just do it cool. Be like cool and calm and collected. Like my friend Han Solo would have tried to kill. Because like Han Solo doesn't like kill Greedo out of anger. He's very slick about it. It's like, is that...
He lets Greedo shoot first. That's how unangry he is.
Yeah, he digitally moves his head out of the way. He's so casual.
I'm angry.
Under that blaster bolt.
Now you got me mad.
So it's like, what is Luke? Okay, Luke's mad at Rey because Rey's about to give up.
Yeah, his main thing is like, don't give up. That's what I did. I was wrong.
So he's kind of like, I'm totally indifferent to whether or not Kylo Ren would live or die. Well, that's not important to me.
I'm going to assume that he knows that Kylo Ren has turned back now. He probably got a notification that. So I think he's talking about Palpatine. Like, you have to keep fighting to go fight Palpatine. Everyone seems to think even Palpatine was like, Kylo Ren is irrelevant to my plans now, and everyone just seems to kind of have written him off. Anyway, does he still get to use his evil Force powers as... I guess he never really did any that were exclusively. He never did Force lightning.
No, because Kylo Ren in this movie, when he becomes good, he just does a bunch of like jumping and chopping. And it's like, that's good, or it's like being a cool Jedi acrobat sword person. It's like neither good nor bad. That's the most neutral application of the Force.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't training it. It's like, you know what it's like? It's like, here's something that you guys will all obviously understand, right? It's like when Michael Jordan went to play baseball.
Yes.
It's like, he lost. All of a sudden he couldn't use his basketball abilities, and he was still very athletic and fit and all that, but he had to like just kind of go back and learn other skills that he had kind of learned when he was a kid, but then not really used in a long time.
Do you think, to keep going with your analogy, do you think someone who everyone we've seen who went evil and then came back quickly died, so we don't get to see them living with their, do you think eventually Kylo Ren would be like, you know what, just being a bad guy was just cooler. Like, I can't shoot lightning, I can't, so like Michael Jordan went back to basketball.
Right. Kylo Ren would have tried to go back to the Sith, and they were like, oh, sorry, we already retired your number, so.
So there's a thing where it's like, you're a good guy, but the Force is tempting you. No, you're welcome.
Yeah, okay.
It's like the Force is tempting you to be bad. The bad guy, the Sith, the evil Force is always tempting you. But it's like, well, when you give in, all you get is lightning. And it's like, and then we've already proved that, like, if you're Yoda enough, you can absorb that lightning with your little sword. Right? That's what Yoda does. He, like, uses his lightsaber like a lightning rod. Is that all you get?
I thought at some point he caught lightning and then threw it at him.
That's right. Yes, he caught he caught the lightning. Yeah. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah.
What are the upgrades to the dark path? You know what I mean? It doesn't seem like you get a lot of extra stuff. Why is it calling to you?
You get to cheat death, I think.
But you don't!
Palpatine dangled that in front of Anakin, so that's how Anakin got tricked into it. I don't know what I guess Kylo Ren just gets to rebel against his parents. That's the whole reason he's doing this. Is he's like, it's the equivalent of like getting his ear pierced.
Right. Or smoking. It's like, wait a minute, what are the upticks of smoking here?
But this is what I'm
talking about. I'm going to be a little bit calmer from time to time, and yet I'm going to smell bad and lose a lot of money and not be allowed inside.
But the thing is, it's like smoking. Okay. Smoking is constantly calling to me, specifically opposite to someone who's quit smoking. It's like,
sure.
And look, the benefits of smoking are I'm anxious, and so I have something to do with my hands. And I get to make friends with other smokers and like maybe date like a hot, cool lady smoker with like a tattoo and like a cool Zippo that says F blank, blank, blank communism. Like, it's
Is it Vanna White that you're talking to?
Oh, no, I'm trying to make a reference to...
I know.
But
Preacher,
forget
I got
the thing I'm even Preacher. There
Preacher,
we go.
Yeah.
Duh. But it's like, okay, ho-hos and ring-dings are calling to me. Because when I eat them, I feel better. It's like they taste so good. The dark side, it's calling to you. And then it's like, oh, if you had the dark side, you could kill a bunch of people with your laser sword. It's like, well, good guys Jedi do that too. They're killing people constantly with these laser swords.
Yeah.
That was always been my beef with Anakin becoming Darth Vader. That scene is, we never really get to see a scene of Anakin being like, this is so awesome. Like, we never get to see him having the high of giving into that temptation. He immediately starts bawling like a babe. What have I done? You know what I mean? Like, that's what I thought was kind of like disappointing. We didn't get to see him basking in the glory of this power that was calling to him for so long. He just, anyway.
No, don't anyway. You're absolutely right. If there had
but I think that's the lesson to be learned.
If there had been if in that scene where he was like about to go to town on those younglings and like turn him into youngling sushi, if he had said like, this is where the fun begins, and had like a big crazy smile, like that actually would be the most interesting scene of Anakin Skywalker in the whole prequel trilogy. Him feeling his oats and being like, evil's base, like, and like frying stuff left and right. That actually would have been cool.
Right. Well, it's like, all the, I think the lesson to be learned is that you get the feel the pull of it and you're chasing that, but you don't ever actually get it with the dark side, right? You don't get that You know, like, do we ever really see, if we're sticking to scenes in movies or in real life, I'm trying to think of like scenes of people being like, yes, like heroin's the best. This is awesome. And then like, you know, nobody ever gets that.
Well, that's not true because I think once that heroin goes into your blood, I think those people would probably say, yes, heroin is awesome. You know what I mean? Like people don't do addictions because they're like at one point and it's something, I don't know. It just seems obviously a heroin person who just shot heroin isn't like jumping up and down, but inside they're totally like, this is why I do heroin, you know? So well, I feel like.
Yes, maybe
she seems to be the only one.
It's just kind of like back to feeling normal, essentially. Like, oh, I needed that to not feel terrible. You know what I mean? Let me just get back to normal here. Let's get the. So maybe
I guess we haven't really seen someone become more powerful when they get the dark side, which would seem to be the whole reason you would do it. You know.
I think let's step it back to talk about smoking and ding dongs, which is something.
And heroin.
We probably have a little bit more. Yeah. I think we're outside of our comfort zone talking about heroin, but
make a kite out of human skin.
Let's talk
about flying in.
I have another.
Well, that's all I have for minute number 92.
I have another thing to talk about.
Sure.
So all right, so Luke, let's go all the way back. Luke's chopping up his dad.
Civil War.
And he's like, so long, Dad's hand. And he's like, and he's like whamming on his dad like a piñata in Return of the Jedi. He's like, bam, 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 bam. And then he's like, you know what? I'm a Jedi. So I'm going to throw away my lightsaber. Because what makes a Jedi isn't our laser swords. It's like what's inside that makes us a Jedi. And he's like, I'd rather die a Jedi than live a Sith. And then Obi-Wan's like, these blasters are crude and uncivilized. These laser swords are based. But then Luke's like, laser swords aren't based. I'm going to throw away my laser sword, and now I'm good. And then he throws away his laser sword again in The Last Jedi. But then in this movie, he's like, no, laser swords are important. Decide what your feelings are on laser swords, Luke. Because he comes in all hot to Rey, like lecturing her about this and that and that. And it's like, you don't even know what your opinion is on laser swords.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what, like, it is circumstantial. So it would be like, the way to win was, it is odd that he's like, he should be, I guess he's like, no, like, you can't throw this away now. Bring it to the Emperor, stand in front of him, and then throw it away. And that'll really like upset him, and then he'll do a whole thing, and then somebody will run in and just pick him up and throw him in a hole. I don't know. That's the way it works, right?
My new theory is that this whole thing is Rey's. This is similar to Leia's putting something in Rey's mind to give herself a pep talk. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, this isn't really the ghost of Luke Skywalker. This is a illusion created by Rey to tell herself what she wants to hear.
After she crashed.
Yeah,
she got there with like a head wound. And the caretakers are applying first aid to her right now, and she's seeing this whole scene.
She's just writhing somewhere in having a seizure of some kind. Having this, That's my current new.
It's like the video for one.
It accounts for Luke's. She doesn't get any new information, and Luke totally is behaving out of character. So,
right,
I like it.
All right.
So Luke's training is done when he puts together his own laser sword. Right? That's the
part
thing.
of it.
His training is done, but he won't be a Jedi until he confronts Vader. He's kind of in that the classes are finished, but finals are still coming up kind of phase.
Okay. No, you're right. You're right. No, you're absolutely right. It's like building your own lightsaber with your own focusing crystals is like the big midterm, like it counts for a lot of your grade, but it's not the whole. No, you're absolutely right. So it's like, because there's that scene in the Return of the Jedi where like that's cut. There's a deleted scene where Luke's like, I put
Right.
together my laser sword, pretty cool. In case you're wondering why I got a new laser sword, because my last laser sword like went down that hole. Like I do have a new laser sword. It's like, and then in the end, the laser sword is important because Luke beats Palpatine by not using his laser sword, but Rey beats Palpatine by using her laser sword and her like boyfriend's laser sword together, right?
Well, two.
Wow.
If you have two laser swords, that's what makes it good. Because it's like,
Right. It's like a double negative.
yeah, see, that's fine. See, he's the victim, so that's totally
Right. Yeah.
Right, because laser sword bad because I cut a hole in my future boyfriend. Then I healed him I gave him some of my life force. I'm just saying, it's like...
So she should have killed Palpatine and then healed him immediately.
Yes!
And, like,
And he would be
it's
like,
like,
I'm
psych.
good now. I've got white robes.
Pug order. Yeah.
Sheev the White. Yes. This is... I'm just...
White.
Look, these movies have got to make a decision. Because these movies are like, blasters, those are lame. But then there's like 8 million scenes of cool blasters. You know what I mean? And then these movies are like, swords. Swords are bad. Peace is good. But then all the cool scenes in these movies are people fighting with swords. It's like, I don't know. It's all a mess, I guess, is where I've ended up on this. It's a disappointing place to end up.
Yeah, I think Yoda's whole thing about the Force must never be used for attack, only for defense. I feel like that's something they tell themselves to convince themselves that they're good.
Right.
You know, like, but
Well, it's like,
clearly
you know,
they're using the
yeah.
Force for a lot of attacking in these films. So,
Right. It's like you know, other martial arts. Like, you know, it's like everybody, you know, we don't go see a like a ninja movie and be like, wow, all that self-defense was awesome. It's like they're using it for other things, and it's, you know, it's all right.
I liked all the parts where they were blocking, but I didn't like all the parts where they were attacking other people. That was too
when
much.
they walked away and they were the bigger person, that part was great. Like,
Yeah, it's like it's like Yoda's whole philosophy is just keep defending till they get tired.
Right.
Wait, I don't know why he's talking like Sheev. I'm sorry. Defend your will. But then, okay. One more thing about this. I know I'm being pedantic, but it's like, so Rey zaps the ship with lightning, and that's bad. But if Rey had just used the gravimetric force powers to pull the ship down and crash it, that would have been good. Because Luke uses gravity force powers to put the proton torpedoes in the exhaust thing. Like, we see them. They turn like magic bullets.
I never thought of that as being the Force. I always assumed that was some technological reason.
Really?
Well, yeah, because why would he have shot if they were at that angle? Like, he never would have... Why would he... First of all, he doesn't know he has telekinesis, and he doesn't... Like, if he had not... Anyway.
We're relitigating way old cases, but yes.
Yeah, exactly. But I never thought of that as him using... I guess because at that point, we didn't know telekinesis was a force power, other than choking people.
Yeah. No, that's true.
So, but anyway...
I do. I
could be retconned. I could totally see people using that.
And I think the reason why it's bad that she used lightning to blow up the ship is not that she blew up the ship, but I mean, she thinks
it wasn't
that
the killing. It was how she did it.
It was the lightning, and she wasn't expecting that it was like, oh no, wait, why did I make lightning? That's what evil wizards do. And so she's like, like that. That's the part that freaked her out, not so much the ship.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like, see, if you're lightning. Bad, gravity force mixed. It's like It's these metaphors are so. It's like it's like
almost like people are trying to justify their behavior and then coming up with some reason for why they are, just like everyone does.
Right.
If you're trying,
everyone makes moral compromises all the time about what is good and what. So who can blame them?
No, I get it.
Moral compromise. All right. Well, this continues. We got more about Leia's Leia's thoughts in this training thing, Rey's thoughts in this, the decision, Luke's thoughts in this. This continues until tomorrow. So I want to table this and bring it into there. Asterios, can you come back tomorrow for another minute?
God, I can't wait.
All right. Listeners, viewers, whichever you may be, why not be the other one in addition? You can go to StarWarsMinute.com/YouTube to get to our YouTube channel if you're just listening. Go there, subscribe, maybe watch some things. You can see what we got going on here. And if you're watching this on YouTube, hey, go subscribe to the podcast and just let it download on your phone if you want. And I don't know, play it or something. Who knows? Just, and it's good to go. If you're on the go, you can catch up, listen over there. Including all the previous seasons where we didn't have video yet. So you got 8 years of shows or something like that you can listen to but not see. So go check both of those out. StarWarsMinute.com. That'll link you to everything we got. And we'll be back tomorrow for a brand new
Star Wars Minute.
StarWarsMinute.com.